Halo Infinite director leaves, and more coming up on today's episode of the latest in tech news. Hey, Gadget here. You're just in time for the latest episode of the world's only 3-in-1 show on tech, gadgets, and gaming news. That's right, this is the latest in tech news. My name is Taylor Merrick, and if you're new here, hit that follow button right now so that you don't miss out on the next show. We do this on the daily here, except for Saturday and Sundays, of course. But do subscribe to us in iTunes or whatever podcast program you're using to listen to, or on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, wait till you get to a part of the show that you actually like before you hit that like button. And if you happen to not like anything of it, let me know down in the comment section. I'll be sure to cover something in the show that you like. Get it? See? So you can like for liking the comment that you liked about that you wanted to hear about, because I'll talk about it then rather than what I want to talk about, because I know there are some things people want to talk about and some things that others don't want to talk about. Like, who cares about the number of people being promoted to, or I guess leaving some company to a certain degree? But if it's a bigger name company, we'll be getting into that. Speaking of which, the Halo Infinite creative director is leaving 343 Industries, so we'll be getting into that a little bit for a feature story. We'll also be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, a review by TechCrunch. We're also going to be taking a look at a Bluetooth vulnerability could expose device data to hackers. In gaming news, we'll be taking a look at, well, Apex Legends loot boxes for Ice Crown was changed after, well, the community apparently didn't like it, probably because they messed it up. And finally, we'll be getting into the Microsoft Flight Simulator is talking about its alpha signups, and it's teasing everybody with gorgeous new videos. Will we have time to look at those videos? I don't know, but stay tuned for all that. Before we do, though, let's find out what happened today in tech history. Alright, today is August 16th, 2019. On this day in history in 1995, Microsoft introduces Internet Explorer, which at the time was a modified version of Spyglass Mosaic, which Microsoft had licensed. Later, when Microsoft began including Internet Explorer for free with Windows, remember we had just talked about that on yesterday's show, Spyglass sued Microsoft for not paying what they felt were the proper royalties. Microsoft settled for $8 million, and then, Spyglass, I guess, just fell out of existence. Have you ever heard of them since? Neither have I. See? That's how much they care about that. Also, on this day in history in 1890, the Census Bureau announced the results using Herman Holleris's machine. Now, back in 1890, they had a population estimated in the U.S. of 62,622,250, but this was the first census determined for the first time by using an automated method, specifically the Hollerith census machine. It sorted returns by completing an electrical circuit whenever a hole punch existed in the punch card, and could process almost 10 times the number of census data than a human clerk. Census workers used the punch pantograph to enter data manually. Keep that in mind. Keep in mind also that Hollerith formed the Tabulating Machine Company in 1896. This company merged with two others in 1924 to become, ironically, still one of the most well-known companies out there today. Can anybody take a wild guess at what those two companies became known as? The International Business Machines Company, or IBM for short. Now you know how long IBM's been around for. Hollerith died on November 17th, 1929. And with that out of the way, let's head on over to today's feature story. Alright, I guess the big news today that everybody's all talking about for some reason or another, we'll be getting into some of that, is the Halo Infinite creative director leaves the company. Tim Longo, creative director for the upcoming Halo Infinite, left developer 343 Industries this week. Kotaku has learned it's part of a leadership shakeup that arrives late in the development of the next Halo game, hopefully not throwing off whatever's going on with the game currently, which is scheduled for release in fall of 2020. Longo, an industry veteran who also served as a creative director for Halo 5, had moved to a different role a few weeks ago, according to two people familiar with goings-on at 343. This week, he left the company entirely. When reached by Kotaku, Microsoft confirmed Longo's departure and sent over the following statement. Roles and responsibilities of various team members regularly evolve to meet the needs of a game throughout development. We have recently had 2 changes to the Halo? What? Wow. I can't read. Halo Infinite development team. Our executive producer, Mary Olson, will now take charge of the campaign team on Halo Infinite as lead producer, utilizing her many years of experience at 343 to help craft a great campaign for fans. Additionally, Tim Longo has recently departed our team, and we are truly thankful for his many contributions to our game, our studio, and the Halo universe. We wish Tim nothing but the best in his future endeavors. The overall creative vision and production of the game remains led by Chris Lee, studio head of Halo Infinite. We have a world-class team building Halo Infinite, blah, 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 alongside Project Scarlet, set to release in holiday 2020. In addition to releasing on Xbox One and PC, Halo Infinite will be a launched game for the next-gen Xbox, which is currently codenamed Scarlet. It's envisioned as a spiritual reboot for the series, according to 343 studio head Bonnie Ross. The studio hasn't shown any actual gameplay yet, but put out a cinematic trailer featuring protagonist Master Chief at E3 this year. And yes, we did cover that as well, so I'm not going to be rehashing that, but there is a video here if you guys deem it worthy to be watched. First announced at E3 2018, Halo Infinite is the 3rd mainline entry in the series to be developed by 343, which took over the franchise back when Bungie split in 2007. So hopefully they can bring this back on track. Hopefully this will be the spiritual reboot that everybody's been looking for and waiting for and hoping for, and hopefully they do it right, because it could just be as good as God of War. Now, I'm not saying that for, no laughing matter. Everybody's wondering for like the longest time, why do we keep having to get Halo? Why another Halo game? Why another Halo game? I mean, Halo 5 was like weird ending, and the one before that was kind of a weird ending. Well, Halo 5, the last Halo, when it left off, kind of left you going, okay, feeling hopeful about some things, but do we really need another one? I mean, I hope this ties up any loose strings going on. But the one before that was just like, oh, really, that's it? Are we sure he's dead? I mean, he just fell off a light bridge into something. Is he dead? I hope so. It doesn't look like that grenade actually killed him. Maybe it did. Who knows? Who knows? So yeah, what are your thoughts? Are you kind of worried now with the creative director leaving Halo Infinite? Will that change things up here for the game itself, or some things now being messed up before release date of next year, or is everything fine? Let me know in the chat box if you're watching via Mixer, or in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. I think you heard my thoughts on it, so might as well not rehash it, shall we? Alright, we got some other news in terms of gadgets. I think something fell on me. Seriously, is there something flying around, like dropping stuff on me? I mean, I know a bird just smashed into the window in my house earlier today. I think it snapped its neck. Unfortunately, that wasn't the greatest thing for it. You gotta tell birds, it's a window. Don't fly into it. Speaking of windows, how many of you have these window devices that you carry around? They're called phones, smartphones, and they're made out of glass. Well, did you get the Galaxy Note 10? No? Well, we're going to do a review on it, at least TechCrunch did. So, it's true, you've got the Galaxy Note to thank for your big phone. When the device hit the scene at IFA 2011, large screens were still a punchline. That same year, Steve Jobs famously joked about phones with screens larger than 4 inches, telling a crowd of reporters, quote, nobody is going to buy that. In 2019, and after Steve Jobs has, been departed, the average screen size hovers around 5.5 inches, including Apple. That's a touch larger than the original Note's 5.3, a size that was pretty widely mocked by much of the industry press at the time. Of course, much of the mainstreaming of larger phones comes courtesy of a much improved screen-to-body ratio, another place where Samsung has continued to lead the way. Oh, and look at that phone. If you can't see exactly what we're looking at right now, you're probably listening to the podcast. If you want to watch today's show, by all means, head on over to youtube.com/TechNewsGadget. Now, in some sense, the Note has been doomed by its own success. As the rest of the industry caught up, the line blended into the background. Samsung didn't do the product any favors by dropping the pretense of distinction between the Note and its Galaxy S line. We're still trying to figure out what is the Note and the Galaxy S. What's the difference between that? Ultimately, the two products served as an opportunity to have a 6-month refresh cycle for its flagships. Samsung, of course, has been hit with the same sort of malaise as the rest of the industry. Smartphone market isn't the unstoppable machine it appeared to be 2 or 3 years back, mainly because it seems to be flatlining in terms of growth, and then in emerging industry or emerging countries that they're trying to gain a foothold in, it's like extremely tough for them to get into it to sell because there's other rules and regulations put on them by the country, or there's already a big player in town over there, so then they're like, well, how are we going to break in? I don't know. That's a headache for them to figure out, not us. But yeah, like the rest of the industry, the company painted itself into a corner with the smartphone race, creating flagship phones good enough to convince users to hold on to them for an extra year or two, greatly slowing the upgrade cycle in the process. So yeah, they've also shot themselves in the foot that way. Ever-inflating prices have also been a part of sales stagnating, something Samsung and the Note are as guilty of as any. So what's a poor smartphone manufacturer to do? Well, the Note 10 represents baby steps. Steps? Snips? Stomps? Steps. As it did with the S line recently, Samsung is now offering two models. The base Note 10 represents a rare step backward in terms of screen size, shrinking down slightly from 6.4 to 6.3 while reducing resolution from Quad HD to Full HD. So it's not true HD, but it's close enough. The seemingly regressive step lets Samsung come in a bit under last year's jaw-dropping price of $1,000. The new Note is only $50 cheaper, but moving from 4 to 3 figures may have a positive psychological effect for wary buyers. You see, while the slightly smaller screen coupled with a better screen-to-body ratio, it means a device that's surprisingly slim and, quote, affordable. So, if anything, the Note 10 Plus feels like the true successor to the Note line. The baseline device could have just as well been labeled the Note 10 Lite. That's something Samsung is keenly aware of as it targets first-time Note users with the 10 and true believers with the 10 Plus. In both cases, Samsung is faced with the same task as the rest of the industry, mainly offering a compelling reason for users to upgrade, and most users just want to hang on to their phones for a year or two. Earlier this week, a Note 9 owner asked the author of this article whether the new device warrants an upgrade. The answer is, of course, no. The pace of smartphone innovation has slowed even as prices have risen. Honestly, the 10 really doesn't offer that many compelling reasons to upgrade from the Note 8. But that's not a slight against Samsung or the Note per se. If anything, it's a reflection on the fact that these phones are quite good and have been for a while. Anecdotally, industry excitement around these devices has been tapering for a while now, and the devices launched in the middle of the doldrums of August likely didn't help much. So there are photos that go along with this. The review goes on to cover more things such as the curved display shown here on screen, as well as the price point, as well as if you're going to be getting it, you are going to want to get a case for your phone. But man, look at that color scheme on the back. Doesn't it look gorgeous? Oh, you can get Aura Glow. This is what it looks like. It looks nice. One of the interesting footnotes is how much of the design of the 10 will be defined by what the device lost. There are two missing pieces here, and for different reasons, kind of inevitable. The headphone jack is, of course, the biggie. Samsung kicked and screamed on that one, holding on to the 3.5mm with dear life and roundly mocking the competition, namely Apple, at every turn. The company must have known it was a matter of time, even before the iPhone dropped the port 3 years ago. So that's what we have now. Yeah. As for why Samsung did it, answer seems to be twofold. The first is a kind of critical mass in Bluetooth headset usage, and the second one is battery. As for what comes in the box, there is no USB-C dongle in box. You can, however, pick up a Samsung branded adapter for $15 or get one for much cheaper elsewhere. There is, however, a pair of AKG USB-C headphones in box, but don't get a lot of credit there. But it's the small things. So the gap, yeah. The other piece missing here is the Bixby button. Since the button was first introduced, folks were asking for the ability to remap it. Samsung finally relented on that front, and with the Note 10, it dropped the button altogether. So you're like, well, what's going on here? So this is Samsung Galaxy Note 10 review in a nutshell. If you want to read the full article here along with their final thoughts, on all of it, but in terms of picture quality, it definitely upgrades that one a little bit. It looks really, really nice. And yeah, obviously it comes in under $1,000, so you might want to take a look at that. If you're interested in the articles covered in today's show, by all means, head on over to TechNewsGadget.net and you can get the show notes for this and any other episode you might have missed. Alright, moving on to some Bluetooth news. Well, did you know that there's a vulnerability that could expose device data to hackers? Well, if you've heard it once, you've heard it again. Just when you think something's safe, it turns out it might not be, because they keep finding vulnerabilities. A fast-acting hacker could be able to weaken the encryption of Bluetooth devices and subsequently snoop on communications or send falsified ones to take over a device due to a new discovered vulnerability in the Bluetooth standard. Now, the vulnerability is pretty clever. Instead of directly breaking the encryption, it allows hackers to force a pair of Bluetooth devices to use a weaker connection in the first place, making it far easier to crack. Each time two Bluetooth devices connect, they establish a new encryption key. If a hacker gets in between that setup process, they could potentially trick the two devices into settling on an encryption key with a relatively small number of characters. The attacker would still have to perform a brute force attack against one of the devices to figure out the exact password, but that attack could happen in an achievable amount of time this time around, thanks to this flaw. Now, it seems that most people using Bluetooth devices don't need to be worried, though. In order to execute this attack, here's what has to happen. The hacker would have to be present during the Bluetooth device's connection, block each device's initial transmission when establishing encryption key length, and broadcast their own message, all within a narrow window of time, says the organization behind the standard. The hacker would also have to be in range and repeat the attack every time they wanted to break in again. So, technically, because Bluetooth doesn't go out that far, they would literally have to be right there, and you could almost guaranteed spot them and identify them. So keep in mind, not every device is vulnerable either. The flaw only applies to traditional Bluetooth devices, not Bluetooth Low Energy, which is frequently used in low-power devices like wearables, and some Bluetooth devices may already have protection against it if they have a hard-coded minimum password strength. Now, the organization behind Bluetooth can't fix the law, but it'll protect against it going forward by recommending that a minimum password length be implemented on vulnerable devices. For now, there's no evidence the vulnerability has been used maliciously. It was discovered by a group of researchers who presented their paper at the Usenix Security Symposium. They named the vulnerability the knob attack, short for key negotiation of Bluetooth. And I think the most fun out of that entire paper that they did was that title right there. A bunch of knobs. No, I'm kidding. See, I didn't offend them. It was a joke. It was pretty funny. I liked the paper, but the paper pointed out a vulnerability that Bluetooth could have just when he thought something was safe. Keep an eye out. It might not be. And, well, hopefully it doesn't appear to be a big problem. So with that, let's head on over to today's gaming news. First up, Respawn is reversing course after an Apex Legends loot box controversy. You see, earlier this week, Respawn launched the Iron Crown event in Apex Legends. The event introduced a handful of new skins to the game, but all of these cosmetics were locked behind a punishing and expensive loot box mechanic. Oh, and cue the reaction from the community, nearly instantaneous. Fans voiced their concerns, feeling that the developer had gone too far with its monetization for the new event, along with more complaints probably from streamers and other people whining about it. And rather than let it get out of hand and become a big deal, on Friday afternoon, Respawn's Drew McCoy published a post on the official Apex Legends site detailing changes that would be made to the availability of the Iron Crown cosmetics. The gist is that the cosmetics will no longer require loot boxes, though they remain an option if players choose. Instead, individual items can be purchased for 1,800 Apex coins, roughly $18 in real-world money. The cosmetics will roll out for purchase over the course of several days, and here is the schedule. For those of you interested, it's on a Tuesday to Thursday, Thursday to Sunday, and a Sunday to Tuesday schedule. Beginning on the 20th of August and going to the 27th. The first batch is the Pathfinder, Lifeline, Wraith, Watson, and Alternator for a couple of classes, followed by more for Gibraltar, Mirage, Bloodhound, R99, and RE45. followed by the Peacekeeper G7 Pathfinder gets another one, and Wraith gets another one as well. In his post, McCoy wrote that the team still has room for improvement. We need to be better at letting our players know what to expect from the various event structures in Apex Legends. He went down stating that the last week has been a huge learning experience for us, and boilerplate message saying that we're taking lessons that we learned to continue to bring you guys the best. But they appreciate the feedback, and quite honestly, if we didn't complain so much about it, they'd actually have no idea. They'd think everybody loves the game and then go, why is the player number dipping? What's going on? Why isn't anybody playing? And it's like, well, I don't know, we have a silent party. I'd rather have people be vocal about things, just in terms of if I'm a game developer. Guys, be vocal about something if you like it, if you don't like it, if you think maybe we should add something new to it, and you have a couple ideas there, we would be happy to do that. Just don't go the way of Microsoft. Actually, pre-Microsoft, but it still happens in the Microsoft ecosystem regardless. Minecraft with Notch going, look at all of these cool mods and features that the community is coming up with. Why don't we tell them to cease and desist, send them letters, get them shut down, and then rip them off and make the mods our own and introduce it into Minecraft like we came up with the idea. Unfortunately, that's carried over when they sold out to Microsoft, who then goes, oh yeah, those were great ideas. Let's just keep doing that. And then everybody's like, quit ripping off the community. The community's gonna leave you, and they're gonna create their own Christian Minecraft servers, and then everybody's gonna play on PewDiePie server, and then Hypixel will come out with their own type of game, and then say, shove it, Minecraft. This is the new game in town. Hytale was the game, in case you guys are wondering. It's still in development right now, and there hasn't been many big news, but I'm excited to hear about Hytale. I know you guys probably are, and obviously that's something on my watch list as well. But yeah, no, I wanted to make the connection of you listen to people, you don't rip off their ideas and then pass it off as your own. It's just a stupid way of doing business. But yeah, that's how businesses learn, especially gaming companies. Keep this in mind if you're going to work for a gaming company or you are a lead in a gaming company. Always listen to the community and always give the community credit. Don't rip them off, and always be asking for feedback. That's all I can say. And finally, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Right after, of course, I have to rip on Microsoft for Minecraft. Well, the one thing they do right is the Flight Simulator. We have some alpha signups going on currently and gorgeous new videos to go along with it. Microsoft Flight Simulator is still preparing for takeoff, but the developers have opened up the gates to their Insider program this week. The first Insider update includes some gorgeous new trailers and screenshots, but perhaps the most notable reveal is the development roadmap for the next few months. So in theory, the roadmap was only meant to go out to insiders this week. General release is set for August 29th, but it's already all over the internet. Insiders will see a continual release of new screens and videos over the weeks to come, and an update on third-party progress on August 22nd. That phrasing suggests that the devs are interested in bringing in content from third-party developers and will be getting more partner features in October. Tech Alpha is currently in testing internally, and they'll be getting proper signups at the end of the month, along with further details on when the public build program will go live. A Tech Alpha timeline for the build program is set for mid-September, but it's unclear whether that's the alpha scheduled to go live or when we're going to hear more details on that. All we have for sure is a bunch of new screens and videos, and the clips are all pretty brief. And from this, you can get the true seconds at a time experience by signing up on the official site. I guess that's flightsimulator.com/insider-program-sign-up. Or you can see all the clips cut together in one fan trailer below. Ooh, new trailer. What's this look like? Either way, they look incredible. We're going to look at a little bit of the video right now from Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're going to look at it. Here's the Cessna Caravan. Look at the graphics on that. The Robin DR400. Man. The Strasbourg flying over France. Or in France, I believe this is the city. Yeah, this is how the game looks like. Another view from the Arcachon, I believe. Yeah, this is in-game footage. In-game footage. I remember playing Microsoft Flight Simulator way back in the 90s going, well, the graphics aren't even that good, but they did a decent enough job on the plane. And me, a kid at the time, what most fascinated me was the fact that it was actually more entertaining to smash the plane into the ground and watch it blow up. The effects are so basic back then; it was laughable. It was like running a stick figure into a wall. But obviously, they've improved a whole lot on the game since then. And I know, for starters, that there is a dedicated community here on Mixer currently who play Microsoft Flight Simulator like all the time. They all know each other, they all talk to each other. So shout out to you guys. Keep doing the great work you're doing out there on Mixer and streaming to everybody and just hanging out, having a good time, flying planes and talking. It kind of reminds me like the ham radios of yesteryear, at least between truckers or people interested in amateur radio type stuff. This is fun. This is fun stuff. But yeah. So if you're interested and you're watching the show or you're listening and you're like, hey, Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's a game I might want to look into. Well, if you're interested, you can look into it for yourself. And then if you want to get a little bit more of a feel for it, head on over to the Mixer community over that streams the Microsoft Flight Simulator. Hang out with them, chat with them. I'm sure you guys are going to have a great time. And then decide then if you want to purchase the game. It'll be a worthwhile investment for you if you're interested. And I think that wraps it up. Do I have any other articles? No, I don't. All right. It's a little bit of a short show tonight. With that wraps up this episode of the latest in tech news. Thanks for tuning in, guys. After the show, we are going to be watching me post-edit the show for release for everybody else. And rather than watch me do that, we'll actually be watching Samurai Pizza Cats episode 3. So tune in for that, and then we'll be looking at Spellforce 3, reviewing the game still. So if you guys are interested in that, we do a show every evening here on mixer.com/TechNewsGadget. The show starts at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we'd love to have you guys tune in and watch live. New episodes every weekday. The latest in tech news can be found on every major platform, including Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Stitcher, Overcast, and more. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to let us know by clicking that like button and leaving a comment if you're watching today's YouTube video. And let us know with the review out on Apple Podcasts if you're listening to the podcast, or leave a review in your current app that you're listening to on. Also, double check that you are subscribed so that you don't miss the next episode. I'm your host, Taylor Merrick, and remember, for the latest in tech, gadget, and gaming news, visit TechNewsGadget.net. Pretty much keep being awesome, guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.